There are countless videos on YouTube claiming to have the secret to getting ahead of 99% of people.
But are there really behaviors that allow you to accomplish that?
Today, we look at some of those tips in hopes of finding the secret or debunking the myth.
Welcome to the Franken Life Podcast. We're here each week on Tuesdays trying to figure out how to stitch together our best lives.
Welcome back, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Troy.
And today we're talking a little bit about getting ahead of 99% of people. So what does it really look like to be a part of the 1%?
And when we first started looking at it, the math isn't as obvious as it maybe should be. I mean, 1% ahead of 99% of people, I mean, that's really a remarkably exclusive group of people that we're talking about.
Yeah, so median income in the US is $70,000.
And if you're going to get up to that 99th percentile, that means jumping up to over $600,000 per year.
Yeah,
It's a big jump.
huge jump. But when you think about $600,000 a year, it's not necessarily as high as I probably would have imagined.
We both were surprised that it's not a bigger number than that, in spite of the fact that 600,000 is
Oh,
a
absolutely,
big number.
huge
so.
number. But the top 10% of income earners are above 200,000.
Which
that's
is a little mind-blowing that it isn't higher than that. It certainly contextualizes some of the numbers that you hear out there.
Yeah, so we have these. We're going through YouTube, and I came across a video by Mark Manson, who is talking about the real secret to getting ahead of 99%. And as I watched his video, it actually made a lot of sense, and he is someone who earns in that threshold of, maybe he's not in the top 1%, but he's on the cusp.
Sure.
So there's some
Credibility to what he says.
says.
Yeah.
But as I then went through YouTube and started scrolling through, you have Alex Hormozy, who of course is in the top 1%. But then you have all these no-name people who
May or may not be, but
may or may not be. But it seems like if you look at the top 1% of people in the US, there's not a chance that many people are creating YouTube videos about how to be successful.
Right, no question. You look at that and you say, what are those people doing that are in the 99th percentile? And here we're just talking about income. We'll expand that a little bit down the road, but 1% of income, what are they doing to earn that? And certainly some portion are YouTube creators,
Yes.
or content producers in some form. Majority aren't. So when you look at the number of people that have put out that kind of content, the probability that they are all 1% earners, not very likely.
Yeah, my favorite was how to be top 10 tips to kind of fast track your path to the 1%. And his first tip was drink raw milk.
Well, there you go. Piece of cake.
Yeah, super easy. But I think that was kind of this Mark Manson's, his point was, honestly, just doing certain behaviors isn't what gets you to the 1%.
Right. It's appealing to have this idea that, if I just do these certain things, if I get up early or whatever the hack might drink raw milk, that's going to yield this disproportionate performance. I'm going to be better than 99%. And the probability that those behaviors, even collectively, even in aggregate, are going to produce that type of, extraordinary result, it doesn't pass the sniff test when you really step back and think about it.
Yeah, but it's such a appealing thing, and we see that in everything, all these YouTube videos being chief among them, but even in books where Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich is one of the most popular business books of all time. There has to have been millions, if not billions, of people who have read that book over
probably not billions, but certainly millions.
It's possible, though. It's been around. It's
a long time.
Public domain. It's been around 75
That's
years.
Good point, for sure.
So, but a lot of people have read that book, and there are not that many people who are rich.
Right.
So
right.
I think that there is some appeal to this simplicity of just wake up at 4:30 a.m. and you'll make it into the 1% club.
Yeah.
But it really isn't that simple, and that's Mark Manson's point is what it really takes to get in the 1% is to be a contrarian about something, be right about that contrary opinion.
Right.
And then be willing to go the distance. So I think maybe we talk about that of what does it mean to be contrarian? What does it mean to be right? And then what does it mean to really go the distance and be a part of the 1%?
All within the context, and as we talked about it, the real question that emerged to me is, what does 1% really look like? And do you want that?
Yeah.
And so...
Well, and that's what I mean by go the distance is... Yeah. You look at Mr. Beast, he just did an interview with Colin and Samir, and the whole first 10 minutes of the interview is him kind of lamenting the difference in lifestyle that he said when he got to 100,000 subscribers, maybe one person a month would recognize him and ask for a picture. When he got to 1 million, it was like one a day.
Yeah.
And now that he's at 16 million, he's like, I can't even leave my house without being asked for hundreds of pictures by everyone in the grocery store.
Right.
And he needs security because people have started tracking down his house. And
the perils of fame, as they say.
Yeah, exactly. So is that something that we ultimately want to pursue?
Yeah.
But so being contrarian, what does that look like?
Well, and I think that what we see in some of these people that really are extraordinary, when we talked a little bit about Steve Jobs, somebody that sees a direction that that society's going and picks a point that is not evident to other people, picks this point and says, that's where I believe we're going to go, and I'm going to build around that, that projection that this person has. But it can't be something that's so evident to everybody else that you get kind of the ruinous competition, as they say. It has to be contrarian, not necessarily meaning the opposite direction that other people are expecting, but a different direction or a different magnitude than what other people are expecting. And you have to do that early, and you have to do that, and you have to be right. I mean, there's been a lot of people that had they been right, they would have been 9%ers. Instead, they've been lost to history. Yeah, you don't know their names. So
Steve Jobs, his whole thing was, I see a vision where everyone has a computer on their desk.
Yeah, and then that moved to the smartphone. That he kept seeing these things that were not evident to everyone else.
Exactly, the iPhone revolutionized humanity.
Right,
and no one believed that would take off the way it did, other than him and a small group of people at Apple.
And there may have certainly been other people who similarly saw that potential, whether it be a computer on every desk or the smartphone. They may have seen it, and so this is the next kind of component of how you become one of those 1%ers is you have to have that contrarian view. You have to be right, and obviously he took action.
Yeah, you have to be willing to execute.
And have the competency to execute.
Yeah. I mean, with Steve Jobs, he was kind of crazy. I mean, he got fired from Apple, and then they kind of realized, okay, well, he's crazy, but we need him.
We need his crazy.
But I think that, it's lonely at the top.
Right.
It's lonely at the bottom.
Yes. there's at least more community in the middle.
Yes, but I think that ultimately, kind of what you talked about is, are you really willing, and do you want to get to that place?
Right.
And that's actually the point Mark Manson made, is like, do you want to drive a sports car and be able to do champagne showers? If that's what you
travel
want,
a bunch or whatever,
you only need to get to like the 80%.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of room for a lavish lifestyle that isn't the 1%.
Right.
And so his kind of point was, all these YouTubers are saying you want to get to get ahead of 99%. I don't think that most people really do want to get to the 99th percentile.
Right.
So that's kind of what we've talked a lot about with the decision to move to Frankenlife is, one, got to figure out what you want, and two, you got to realize that everyone's figuring out what works for them. What worked for Steve Jobs to get to the 1% is not going to work for anyone else. And
right. Nor would they wouldn't want what it takes to do that, nor would most people want what that
looked like,
what that looks like, what that requires of you. You know, what that
Warren Buffett,
that,
same thing.
Yeah, that endpoint, it feels appealing because it from a distance seems like it doesn't have the problems or the concerns that I have.
Yeah.
You know, whether it be financial concerns or a popularity or whatever it may be, it doesn't have my problems. But what is so easy to miss is it has its own problems.
Yeah.
And oftentimes those problems are ultimately may prove more onerous than what we feel like we're wanting to escape or get away from.
Yeah. And it's really interesting that that escapism is, I want to do something that seems hard to me, wake up at 4:30 or take cold showers every day. And that's the key to getting over all the problems that I'm currently facing. But stepping into those different problems and really looking at it and saying, well, Warren Buffett, he eats a McDonald's breakfast sandwich and drinks a Coke every morning. Like, he's not making decisions that these self-help gurus are saying, yeah, that's the way to success.
That's the secret.
Hit McDonald's every morning at 8 a.m.
Right. And I think that, you know, in fairness, a lot of those behaviors are they well may be. Now, the raw milk part, I'll leave someone else to, you know, decide that. Getting up earlier and focusing on a schedule that is productive for what you're wanting to achieve.
Yeah.
Those behaviors will help you move forward. You know, there's the old adage that if you're willing to do what 90% of people won't, you can do what 90% of people can't.
Yeah.
And while that may seem trite, there's truth to the fact that when we're doing those things that take us out of our comfort zone, that is where we progress. That's how we progress, is by doing that. So we certainly aren't poo-pooing, you know, behavioral changes and some of those, embracing some of the hard things as a means of moving us forward. What we are, I think, suggesting, or what we believe is, if you view them as shortcuts, or if you view them as sort of causal to extraordinary performance, one, you have to stick with them.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people, even if they were causal, even if they guaranteed 90, that you'd be ahead of 99% of people, they're still not willing to actually stick with those behaviors. So one, you have to stick with them. But even if you do, there's a lot of other variables in play besides just drinking raw milk and waking up at 4:30 that are going to dictate how successful you are comparative to other people. And I just say that in and of itself, that's where I kind of step back and say it may be a fool's errand anyway, because comparing them to somebody else, you're now predicating sort of your success or happiness on their definition of success or happiness, and that's going to run out at some point. That's a tank that you can't run on too long. Yeah,
well, I think we talked about Matt D'Avella and Sarah Dietschy, both wildly successful creators in their own right. And Matt D'Avella's a 5 a.m.er and get up, make breakfast, make coffee, and get after the day. Sarah Dietschy's a 11 a.m.er but works until 2 in the morning.
Right.
And they've just kind of found their pattern, their kind of rhythm of life that really works for them to push themselves.
Right.
Neither of them is being lazy.
No, or comfortable. They're pushing into the discomfort, but
they've found very different ways to do that. And I think that that's really where a lot of the self-help stuff and why we've moved to Frankenlife is, we don't want people to live life our way.
Right.
We want people to live their Frankenlife.
And define those things that when they put them together, it is expansive to them. I mean, it helps them be more fulfilled.
And get to where they want.
Right. Well, and I think that, so the two components where I see the logical disconnect in a lot of what people are saying, self-help and whatnot, is one, that this 99% or whatever your target, that it's defined by somebody else.
Yeah.
That society will tell you what you want more of. That's dangerous. Second is that there's these shortcuts or these 10 hacks that all you have to do is do those things and you'll get this result. That both of those are too simplistic in their orientation. So if we instead are being more intentional about figuring out what we really want, what is our direction, and then evaluating our acceleration or our velocity towards that destination in ways that work for us, that's a pattern that allows progress. But allowing somebody else or relying on somebody else's definition of success, and then relying on someone else's hacks, even if they do work for them, which oftentimes they may or may not, who knows, expecting their hacks to get me to their satisfaction. Who at the end of the day really wants that life when you deconstruct it like that?
Or believes that the way someone else is living their life perfectly mirrors the way that they would ultimately, all things being equal, live their life.
Yeah, no, well said.
I think that, that's definitely the trap I've fallen into with a lot of these self-help books. Atomic Habits is probably the number one, where I just say, if I could just do all these things like James Clear kind of has it made. I love like the idea of writing and stuff. And when I step back and look at it, I'm not sure I want to live exactly like James Clear, and that's okay.
Right.
I think
he's
perfectly happy with his life, and I need to figure out the ways that make me perfectly happy with mine.
Yeah, I think the old adage, don't compare, compete, or complain.
Yeah.
That compare is one where there is a lot of peril, because we expect this person has and seems to be successful and seems to be loving what they're doing. If I'm not that, then I'm falling short. But we can all make progress forward, but if we're making our own progress, if we're clear on identifying what progress looks like for us, it certainly simplifies the process, because now we can really align what behaviors we're trying to create or what we're trying to practice with where we're trying to get.
Yeah.
And sometimes asking the question, wait, am I trying to get to a place that I really want to get to? And I think a lot of times the answer to that, if we're really honest with ourselves, is no, not really.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was interesting. I just saw a thread, I guess is what you call them, on the new social media app that just came out. But someone threaded, stitched, whatever they did on that app, and they said, if you pass your mentor, it's not success. It's that you didn't beat your mentor helped you succeed.
Oh, interesting.
And I thought that was interesting, that they were basically saying it's not a competition.
Yeah.
Your mentor is probably, if they're in a stable enough place to be your mentor, they're at a place where they may be content.
Or they've gotten where they need to be, or working on things that aren't evident to you.
Yeah, and so you passing them in some metric doesn't necessarily mean that they even want that. They've helped you be successful, and so that don't compare, compete, or complain. I think is a great mantra, that we're here to help other people get to where they want to.
Yeah.
And like Mr. Beast has a lot of people that he goes and asks for feedback on his videos and stuff like that. And he's obviously way more wildly successful in a YouTube metric.
Yeah.
But he still wants help from others, and he wants to help other people. His whole thing is about mentoring others. And I think it's really inspiring to see someone like him, where it just doesn't feel like he wants to be the best at what he wants to be the best at. But he's out there just trying to help everyone else be the best at what they want to be the
Which
best
is cool, to not be in a place where you're defined by success, but instead are seeking fulfillment. What I think a lot of people have found is that success thing often measured in kind of worldly, whether it's income or possessions or whatever, it ends up not being terribly satisfying. Mm-hmm. But that fulfillment in terms of interacting with others, helping them, and growing and progressing, that process and those relationships prove much more fulfilling, and that's, as it relates to helping other, that job's never done. I mean, that one is one that you just can continue to do better and better at, and help more and more people, and reap the benefits of those added associations. So that's a cool thing.
Yeah, really the reason that we started this podcast was to try and connect with people, try and help people on their journey, but also get people's feedback on ours.
Helping us on ours.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, we're really grateful for anyone who does listen to this podcast and is willing to put up with our at sometimes long rambles and kind of tenuous trains of thought, but we're grateful for everyone who is listening and grateful for the feedback we've received from people. And
it's been a great process for us to have to put these thoughts into words, you know, and really try to stitch them together in ways that are meaningful to us. And so hopefully some of that has been helpful or interesting or useful, or you may think it's ridiculous and you go the complete opposite direction. Great. If it's helpful in any way, that's wonderful.
Yeah. So if you want to help us out even more, we'd love to get some reviews on Apple Podcasts or comments on our YouTube video. If you'd like to see us in person, not sure it's the prettiest sight, but we are on YouTube, and we put up occasional graphics and stuff that go along with the video. So it's been fun to record this, and we look forward to continuing to connect with you as we move forward with this.
Sounds great. Well, until next week.
Yeah, we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks much. Good. I thought overall it was good. A little rambly, yeah.